is our common goal, whether it's the county, the Census Bureau, the City of Concord. We all want to partner together to make sure that everyone is counted once, only once, and that we count them in the right place. Okay, so that's our common goal. We want everybody to be counted, and the mantra is count me in. So you're going to keep hearing more and more about that in the coming weeks. So what is the census? We only do this once every 10 years, but when we do it, it's incredibly important for things that happen within the span of the decade until the next census. So there's basic questions, there's only 9 questions, it only is supposed to take about 10 minutes. How many people have completed the census in the past that remember doing it? Okay, I know I did it, I don't remember too much about it, right. So that's why, again, it's so important for us to do this education out in the community. And I want to be very clear that I know that there's some fear in some communities about the census because there was conversation about the citizenship question, and there will not be a question about citizenship on the census. So it's really important that we communicate that to people, and it is required by law for everybody who is a resident here in the United States, all of our friends and neighbors. So why do we get counted? So for a variety of reasons, and I'll start with representation. So representation happens at a number of different levels. It starts at the congressional district level that I talked about already, and so we want to make sure that everybody who lives here in Concord, as one of the biggest cities within I think Concord actually is the biggest city within our congressional district, and so we have an important role to play to make sure that everybody's counted, so we keep that congressional district. And then bringing it down to our assembly district, it's at the state level, so we're represented in the state assembly. We're also represented in the state senate. So those districts are drawn based on population. Then we bring it down further, the Board of Supervisors, they redraw their districts there are 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, and they redraw every 10 years. Now that the City of Concord has moved to the district system, our districts, I know from personal experience, it's based on population. Again, it's not based on voting population, it's based on the number of people. So the process that we went through in 2018, we actually, even though it was 2018 when we were drawing our districts, we were basing this on 2010 census data. So that was very frustrating for some people because that meant that 6,000 people were not included in the count, because from 2010 to 2018, at least 6,000 people had moved to our Concord community. And also, our school district, Mount Diablo Unified, is moving to districts. So they will be also impacted. So thinking about the representation, so for example, in Concord, where we have our immigrant population concentrated in the monument community, if we don't make sure that everyone's counted there, then our districts might end up becoming, the district boundaries could change, in other words, so things could become smaller. So we want to make sure that everybody's counted. It's absolutely critical. When it comes to planning and infrastructure, so I talked with our transportation manager, and sometimes whenever we're applying for certain grants, so for example, I've been involved recently in trying to help a number of other stakeholders come up with a transportation plan for people in the monument community who do not have access to cars. So improving our public transportation system was the goal. And so there's funding for that because that's considered to be a community of concern. And there's funding from the county, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, as well as regional funding, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. So if we don't count people as being part of that community, then we might not get funding to do this kind of transportation planning in the future. So that's key. And also in terms of informing businesses, so when businesses look at where they're going to locate, let's say, if Safeway or, a bank is trying to open a new branch, a new store, they do take a look at census data to see who is there, to see if it is a good business decision, if the right demographics for their particular business are located in a community. So it's very important that everybody is counted. So we've talked a little bit about construction and roads. When I talked with my friends on the school board, they also explained to me that even whenever government is looking to cite brand new schools. So for example, at the Naval Weapons Station, we're gonna be having to make decisions about how many new schools, what grade levels, all of that is gonna be factored in. Hospitals as well, where we're gonna put things like fire stations, not just at the Naval Weapons Station, but in general. So it's very important that we make sure that everybody's counted. And for the schools in particular, they were sharing with me that, you know, we need to make sure for funding for free and reduced lunch eligible students, for example, those counts, actually, the more students that you have who are free and reduced lunch eligible, or who are economically disadvantaged, or who are English language learners, that actually leads to more funding per student. So it's really important that we capture all of that information. So it's pretty amazing how much, how many dollars are tied to this 10-minute survey, isn't it? Don't you think? Yes. So just to give a little bit more information, so this is a statistic related to the county, Contra Costa County. 42% of our revenue comes from federal and state resources. And so we could lose up to $2,000 per year for each person that's not counted. And that can add up over a decade, right? So who counts? So everybody counts. So everybody who is living here on April 1st, 2020 counts. So from babies to seniors, people who are formerly incarcerated, people who are immigrants, people that are not living in houses or apartments. So every single person is counted, and it's very important that we get the word out there. Now, this is an example of hard to count populations. So obviously children under 5, youth, you know, we're working hard to get them to vote, as Lisa was talking about, rock the vote, getting everybody out to vote, but youth, you know, they're really trying to make sure that we count them, because some of them might be at college, some of them, you know, so we want to make sure that we count them. People that are living in poverty, people that don't have a high school diploma, people that are living in multifamily units or that are moving from place to place, seniors, veterans, people experiencing homelessness, as I've already mentioned, people who are undocumented, people distrustful of government, people living in rural areas. We're not a rural area for the most part, at least, but we have almost everybody else in terms of hard to count population. And what I thought was interesting, I wanted to share this slide. So Contra Costa has quite a few hard to count population areas. I thought that Concord would have a higher percentage. It looks like 15% of our population is hard to count. So it means that we're not as challenging, say, as our neighbor next door, Pittsburgh or Richmond. So we have no reason why we can't make sure that everybody gets counted if we work together on this. So the official day is April 1st. So that's technically Census Day. And you can respond online, you can respond by phone, you can respond by mail. So you're going to start getting information in March. We're starting to see a lot of ads for hiring census workers. And so if you don't complete your census questionnaire by a certain period, you're going to start hearing from somebody come to your door. Has anybody ever had a census worker come knock on their door? No? No? Okay. Well, maybe that's because everybody in this room filled out their survey in time. Right. I don't know. Yes. So again, but the goal is to get everything completed by April 30th. And then this is kind of just a timeline to share with you. This isn't really very easy to see. I do apologize. But what is in the box, if you can see the box there, is basically showing you this is where we are right now. There's been a lot of work that's been behind the scenes that's been going on, but now we're really getting into the crux of things. Crunch time is really going to happen from March through May. And so here's a little more information. So the self-response period that I was talking about from March through the end of April. And then if you haven't responded, you will be having people come to your door basically from May until the end of July. So really trying to connect with you, it's very important. Now, one thing I will share with you is that this time there aren't going to be nearly as many people that are knocking on doors. So in 2010, there were a lot more people, and there was a big push by the federal government to get everybody counted, and there hasn't been the same, shall we say, sense of urgency. But in California and in Contra Costa, we're trying very, very hard because we know that a lot is at stake, and we have a lot of the hard to count population. So this is information what you will receive from the Census Bureau. So it's kind of a just a timeline, what you can expect. So again, you're going to get an invitation to participate. And this is the first time, by the way, I don't think that I mentioned this, but this is the first time that we can actually complete the census questionnaire online. So this is something that is new for all of us. So you're going to get that invitation. Again, it's only supposed to take about 10 minutes. So read through that information. You'll get a reminder. We know that we're all busy. You'll get a reminder postcard, and then you're going to start getting some follow-up from people if you haven't completed your questionnaire. So we get counted at our homes, so our place where we live and sleep. People that are experiencing homelessness, they will be counted at either shelters, so at the Concord shelter, or outdoors, where they might be residing, RV parks, motels, if people are in some kind of transitional housing, so correctional facilities, campuses for college students. So it's basically your place of where you sleep is where you will be counted. And so it's important to use your census ID number. So don't share that with anybody. Don't throw that away. It's very important that you use that number whenever you are completing your questionnaire because it is obviously unique to you. So this, again, I didn't realize how this would project, so this isn't super helpful. But what I provided is basically a screenshot of the questionnaire. So it's going through, it wants to know how many people are living in your house as of April 1st, 2020, because remember, that's Census Day. If there's any additional people that are there that were not included for some reason. So it's asking more information about your house in question number 3. So is it owned? Is it rented? It wants to know your telephone number. It's going to ask information about each person. So you'll see person 1, person 2, person 3. So it wants to know more information about the person's name, the person's gender, the person's race. And let's see here. And then it goes into person number 2. It's not very hard, again, for you to complete. And I apologize that I don't actually have some sample questionnaires, but if that's something that people are interested in, I agree. I shared with Lisa earlier that I received a lot of this information from County Supervisor Burgess and her office because they helped to put together this presentation. So I'm going to share the full presentation with her, and then you can take a look at it more closely and see all of the questionnaire online. So what we're really trying to communicate, hopefully I've communicated this, is that this is easy, 10 minutes, 10 questions, right? That it's safe. I want to be very clear that this information is not going to be shared with anyone. There's not a citizenship question. This is purely to try to our forefathers put this into the Constitution that we are supposed to be gathering this information about all people residing in this country once every 10 years. And it's really critically important because, as I shared with you, everything from our representation to federal dollars coming down for different programs. We also have our community development block grant that I didn't go into much detail about, but different programs the city helps to fund. So different nonprofit organizations, for example, throughout the Concord community, they do apply to receive some funding from the city each year through a competitive process. And so our funding also is based on the perceived need, and the need is based on the population count. So obviously there are going to be barriers, so there are concerns. There are legitimate concerns about moving this online for the first time, because many of us take for granted getting onto a computer, but there are many people in our community who don't have a smartphone, who don't have access to a computer, and for whom this might be really challenging. So, so that's something that we're very concerned about, and security too. We all know somebody who's had their identity stolen. We hear all the time about data breaches from big box stores, and so so there are concerns about security, distrust with the government, particularly because there was this back and forth question about whether or not there's going to be a question about citizenship asked on the census or not. I also think that one of the challenges is people are so busy with so many things. They might get these reminders in the mail, and it's like, oh, what is this an advertisement for now? You know, the census. What is this? Why is this relevant to me? And so that's why I'm really trying to, as one of your local elected officials, to hopefully make that connection so that you understand that for government to function well and for us to get the funding that we need to serve populations in need, we have to make sure that everybody is counted. So, so we're looking for trusted messengers. Like I said, at the county level, we have people from the Board of Supervisors working on this. There's been a county committee that's been working on this since last year. We are also, the census is also hiring people, the Census Bureau, I should say, to go out and be census takers, trusted parties. And so you might be curious, okay, so what is, you've heard me talk about the county, so what's the city of Concord doing? So we've been doing quite a few things. So for one thing, last year, we've been doing a lot of providing of space. We started this conversation about this space, but you know, Concord is centrally located, and so this is a space where we've invited the county at some of our different locations, some of our community centers, Center Concord, for example, providing entities space for free to do census training. And I don't know if some of you saw, but during the summer, toward the end of the summer into the fall, the census did have representatives tabling at the farmers market. We've had people come and make public comment at city council meetings. Even when I was participating in our Veterans Day event over at Willow Pass Park on November 11th, 2019, the census had somebody there tabling, setting up information, just trying to, anytime the city was having an event, we've invited the census to come and join us. So there are going to be some field trainings that, again, a bunch of community-based organizations are going to be participating. Usually there is some kind of facilities charge. The city is not charging anything for these groups to meet. So February 18th and then March 23rd through the 26th. We also have been trying to use our social media channels. So the city has very active social media channels. Hopefully everybody's following them. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And so we've been using those to highlight opportunities related to the census, including if somebody would like to work for the census. And we're going to continue to do that. We're committed to doing that as well. And continuing to share information. We have newsletters that are coming out. I think that in a recent newsletter from the city, there was some information about the census as well. So just trying to, and I can tell you everybody on the city council has expressed, you know, how important this is. And even today, when the mayor was giving his State of the City address, he spoke about the importance of the census and had a slide or two dedicated to that as well. So you all are very active community members since you're here on a Wednesday night to hear about the census in the first place. So I didn't want you to leave without, you know, learning a little bit more about what you can do. So this website, www.cococensus.org, so you can be a census partner. So, and there are some people that are ambassadors, so basically reaching out to people in your network, because again, at the end of the day, we're looking for a trusted messengers for this, since there is a little bit of confusion and misunderstanding about the census in the first place. So each and every one of you can be an ambassador for the census, helping to explain to your neighbors why this is important, or your friends. There's more information at the next URL about census jobs. And again, if you, I don't know who is involved necessarily. I know obviously Neto has been doing a great job with some of your newsletters and emails, and by holding this program this evening. But if there are other representatives here tonight from community groups, or if you're working for a nonprofit organization and there's kind of a connection or a nexus to the census, sharing information about the census in your publications, and even being willing to host public events, or I know that representatives from the Census Bureau are willing to come out and speak to different groups. So for example, I've suggested to my Seroptimus Club that we have somebody come. So if you're part of Kiwanis, Rotary, any of these different service groups, or even coming to your church and just helping people, under any place that people gather and they want to help and make a difference. It would be good to host some kind of educational gathering, is just my suggestion. And so I just suggest as well that all of us consider taking the census pledge, because we can model that. And even, I was thinking about this today as I was putting together the presentation. I don't know if they have stickers, people go around and they love to wear those. I voted, and I always vote by mail, so I don't get one. Yes, but I'm sure somebody is going to come up with something that we can put on our social media post, a little pin of some kind saying, I completed the census. So if somebody hasn't developed that yet, we've got an app creator out there. And then just if you want more information, you can text to this number, 925-402-4057, to get more information via text about the census. And again, I'm going to share this with Lisa. So these are people that are working, full-time on the census, or they're engaged in some way, who are real experts. So if you want to reach out to get more information, I've provided their information. And that's it. So I hope that we're all going to leave here saying, count me in.